Good morning. We'll call the August 21st, 2024 Development Review Committee meeting to order. We'll start with attendance. Community development is present. Police Department. Police Department.
Mike McKinley.
Public Works.
Richard Earps here.
Fire
Jeremy Holderfield.
and Building.
John Hanson.
Okay, I'll just remind everybody that the meeting is being live streamed, so if you're an applicant or presenting an item, please come up to the podium so we can get everything on the record. The first item is a special event, the Apopka Altamont Springs Veteran Foreign Wars Post 10147, a tribute to Motown. Recreation Department.
So the VFW is looking to do a fundraising event with dinner and live music at the VFW or the Apopka Community Center. There's going to be about 275 people. They're just setting up tables and chairs and a stage. They will have alcohol. They have already started the off-duty process. They'll be using the building parking and 5th Street parking for overflow. That's basically it.
Okay. Any questions for Lexi?
I haven't heard anything in a while, so I'm assuming we have this off-duty and alcohol thing resolved with them of start times, finish times, and everything.
Yeah, I was already emailing them this morning, and Jalen at the Fran is working on it as well.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
And I didn't have a question on this one specifically, but related to using staff using for homeowners association meetings. In this example, the community center is. Who should I contact to try to reserve it on some evening during the week?
Jalen.
Jalen.
Mhm.
Jalen. Okay.
Okay.
That's all I have. Thank you.
All right, so what we'll do is go around in regards to the special exception. Community development has no comments and recommends approval. Police.
I don't have anything. Thank you.
Okay. Public services.
Don't have anything. Thanks.
Fire and building.
I don't have anything. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Lexi.
Thank you.
Next two items are the same project. It's Roseville, future land use and rezoning. Gene Sanchez is the project manager.
Good morning. This is not that, but this application is to amend the future land use and the zoning designations for 3251 Pumpkin Pines Road. I call it Roseville Farms property. It is east of Pumpkin Pines and north of Pumpkin Road. The applicant proposes to amend the future land use from mixed use to residential very low suburban, which permits 2 dwelling units per acre. The zoning would be amended from mixed use East Shore Gateway to RSF 1B residential single family large lot district. The applicant intends for this to be a continuation of the current Wolf Lake Ranch subdivision, if y'all can remember that. This would be phase 2 of it, and the only comments I have are really kind of housekeeping items. I am working on the Orange County public schools school capacity form for them, and I just require some responses to our criteria per code. So I didn't get any comments from DRC, so I'm assuming as soon as my comments are resolved, it can move forward to public hearings.
I have one question real quick. Is this subdivision or this phase gonna connect with phase 1?
Yes.
There's gonna be a road that connects those two, because I know the fire department has some concerns about the secondary emergency access and the slope of it, being able to get a fire truck up there. So if they connect, that should resolve that issue, correct?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. I discussed with the builders on the slope. We're going to go away from that at this point because there's access in and out on Poncan on the size of it on Poncan Pines. Like Chief saying a secondary road, that's what I'm curious about. My concern now, like with how many houses are we talking about adding in this portion of the neighborhood? Is there a number?
Right now, we're looking at 59 based on the
59?
density.
What's the total number that's already?
I can't.
There's 61 units in phase 1. We'll be losing one of those units to accommodate for the cross access.
So over 100 houses. So my concern is coming out of the curbs on Poncan Road with that area, with the amount of traffic coming down Poncan Pines and McIver Run in that area. That's a lot of traffic coming into that area. I do have some concerns with that curve and that being our only access point to get into that area. I mean, there's some concerns in that area for that reason.
Well, you go ahead. I haven't seen any of really, we had a concept plan that we saw. So what I tell you with the connection with phase one is a preliminary discussion point. So I'll let them talk to you about the connection.
Yeah. So, good morning. My name is Bill Mackey.
There's no
I'm the
dots,
applicant for this. I'm with Daily Design Group. 913 North Pennsylvania Ave is our address. Yes, we are going to be providing, in our pre-application meeting, we did talk about providing a secondary emergency access that would be going to connected to Poncan Pines Road. There we go. The exhibit Tina's passing out is one that that we sent out for our neighborhood meeting, showing where the primary access is
Thank you.
on Wolf Lake, Poncan Pines Road. It's through the divided gated entrance. That'll be the primary access for both communities. The cross access is it's lot number 15 in what would be phase one. And that's where we're looking at to provide a cross access. If you look just up towards the top of that, you'll see where there's another emergency access that we're proposing off from Poncan Pines. And then we also have the existing emergency access off from Poncan Pines. In regards to the intersection, we do understand the concerns, and we, from the last community meeting when we were up here as well, the residents did express concerns about that. So we do have a traffic engineer. We will be working with them and, going along with their recommendations. And, we'll do what we need to do to make sure that's a safe intersection.
What
One-
about some, um, I think, I can't remember the name of the road right this second, on the other bad curves further
Yeah.
down Poncan. I think the developer there put some, like flashing signs up indicating there was a, roadway there so that, people were aware there could be a hidden driveway effect or something like that.
Yes, and absolutely. I believe, that's something that we're willing to look at. We also were thinking about asking the traffic engineer, maybe it's a possibility of having one of those speed limit signs that flash and let people know what their speed is as a way to help slow down the traffic and make it safer. But it's something that, as we go forward through the process, because it's an Orange County road, we have to look at what they'll approve
Because
as well.
to add to the issue is there's a school crossing right there too.
Yeah, there
going
is a school
across
crossing right
Poncan.
there. Yeah.
For the subdivision to the south. I'm going to assume your subdivision is going to create some more school children walking down those sidewalks through that curve. And obviously, if somebody leaves that roadway right there, they could strike one of the children. So anything like you said, a flashing speed limit sign, some kind of signs indicating that a hidden roadway ahead or something like that. I think I saw a proposal. Isn't there a house being built on the south side of Poncan right there now too?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, there's a rezoning. Yeah, it's a gentleman who lives there and just wants to rezone it for his own property. Yeah.
Yeah, that little area right there was so unfortunately we can't straighten the road.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, because of the owners of some of the property and the other curves, we can't straighten that section of the road either. So anything you could do to work with us to make sure that those school children are safe, and obviously that the community, and I think that your recommendation of a speed limit sign that flashes to slow them down in those curves or something like that.
Yeah, something to bring the attention
would be
to it.
good.
Yeah, one of the things also that when we did rebuild our Poncan Pines Road, we did put sidewalks on both sides, as well as we expanded the trail to a 10-foot trail in front of the property. So we have done some things to at least make, the walking of the children a little bit easier. But yeah, absolutely, we'll be working with the traffic engineer in the county and everybody to make sure that it's addressed as safely as possible.
You guys said that I might have missed it while I was trying to find it.
Mhm.
Or while I was down here. The emergency access, there's a secondary one on Poncan Pines Road.
Yes, it's towards the north, and it says it's an arrow says emergency access. It would be what the road terminates up to. It's a cul-de-sac.
So
So we'd be looking for a secondary emergency access.
based on our discussions, Jeremy, do we need it? We have an entrance and connection through the subdivision, two entrances to the subdivision, and a connection in between. Do we need a secondary emergency entrance?
I really don't think so. At
Yeah.
that point. I mean, I'm good with what it is. My like we touched on, you guys were conversating on it. My concern was the heavy traffic with the kids in the crosswalk, and I do appreciate what you guys have built with the sidewalks. That definitely has helped out in that area. It's just that's a lot of traffic coming in and out of there. You go to your traffic study, like you said. there's no way to access the rear of the neighborhood to Appy or anywhere back to that back area, or is it just?
No, unfortunately, there's not a connector road at this time. It would be properties going up, so it doesn't appear.
On the west side of the road owns all the way to our property.
If
They
if
own that. They
Tina,
own
if you're going to speak, you need to so we can get it on the record.
So
the property to the west of this, we're calling it Roseville because it's the Roseville Farms. The property to the west of Roseville, and you can kind of see it's almost the shape of, it looks like the T up there, but in the straight part of the T, they own all the way over to touch our property. And then the Kennerleys own the 3 houses to the north of us. And they have a little cross easement over there. So there is an easement that goes up to serve the Kennerleys across the Roseville property, but it does not connect all the way through to Appy Lane. So I imagine when those come in for future development, the road will be built there.
I don't know, just Luke Clausen. I don't know that it'll ever go to Appy, but it'll go to Lent. Because
Yeah.
Lent's the one just to the south of Appy, and there's actually a back gate to the Northwest Recreation right there. That's the skated for the city. I think that when we previously talked about this, the idea was that eventually Poncan Pines would potentially go up there, but there's like 4 or 5 properties that would have to happen before then. But this doesn't prevent that, but it the way the right of way is situated right now, it's off site, it's to the west, and so it would really need that people to dedicate to continue going to the north, because that's where the easement is and that's where the existing road is. And so the other thing with the secondary access point on Poncan Pines, I know when we previously talked, there were some concerns over the secondary access right off Poncan because of the slope of it, and so the thought was adding that additional secondary, so that way that one kind of
As long as we have 2 entrances into the subdivision.
Yeah.
And as long as you build that connector road between phase 1 and phase 2.
Yep.
I think we'll be fine. The reason we asked for the emergency entrance in the first phase was because we didn't know phase 2 was coming, and we
Right.
had no secondary access. If something happened at the main entrance to the subdivision, we could not get into the subdivision. But
right.
with that secondary entrance in the crossroad, we have a way to traverse through the subdivision. So unless somebody else
I just know
disagrees,
Jeremy-
I don't think we need it.
He expressed some concerns over the emergency access for what you would call phase 1 because of the slope right now. So the thought was have this other one, but we can remove it. It doesn't really affect
I
the
think
plan.
I think those concerns were stressed before we knew there was a phase 2
Okay.
and a connection road coming in, because that was our only secondary access into
Okay.
that subdivision. Now that we have 2 entrances and a connector road in between the 2 phases, we should have access to be able to get into anybody that may need assistance in that.
There wouldn't be
subdivision.
2 entrances though. There's only 1 entrance and then the connector road in between the 2 phases.
There's a second entrance north on.
That's the emergency.
Secondary emergency.
That's the emergency access.
Why wouldn't we make that an entrance?
Because we don't own that property. We have an easement to go over it, so we have the right to access it. So we could give you a 30-foot access road there, but we don't have the right to build a 60-foot road to continue the full road up.
Yeah, Poncan Pines Road, actually the right of way, the full right of way stops to the south there, just north of the existing gated entrance. And then beyond that, this property has a 30-foot access easement and utility easement that runs to the north. So you could use that for emergency access, but it's not enough to do a full access to a gated entry.
So do you see what they're saying? I thought that you said arrow, so I'm looking up here at this arrow up here in the top corner. But you're saying that road, secondary road to the north coming up off of Poncan Pines is not going to connect to the road.
Correct. So the right of way stops. See, the right of way stops right there. And then from here to the north, all the way here, the whole property is a 30-foot access easement. So you can use the access easement for emergency access, but we can't improve Poncan Pines to get to that road. And if you're making that a gated intersection, you need to improve Poncan Pines to it. You know what I mean?
Let's just leave it emergency gated like we talked about.
Yeah, they're gonna have to.
You're gated already on the first phase, so obviously you're gating this whole deal. And you know my requirements with gates, so it would be the same access point in and out. I want to have both points in and out of that emergency gate.
And this one you want to be electric, right? You want it to be the automatic?
Yeah, electric, we're not doing crash gates. Something I'm not going to do going forward. And just obviously, and with emergency access points, it's kind of the point at this point. I will, going forward, allow grass emergency access, something like that.
Well, this one will pave it. The secondary one will pave it.
I'm just going out some more information.
Yeah.
For guys for future reference.
So there's no fix to this right of way issue?
There is, when the property to the west comes in, because of the way the Poncan Pines is aligned, when the property to the west comes in, they'll dedicate the remaining portion to the north of Poncan Pines.
That was more of a question for Bobby, but I appreciate
Oh,
you
sorry.
answering because it doesn't seem right that we're not improving Poncan Pines up to the entrance to this subdivision.
Right, usually as the developed properties develop, they dedicate the right of way. So that's how it works, like Luke was saying.
So when that occurs, the city has no recourse to make a connection there where that emergency access is, and it's going to look terrible for ever with an emergency access coming off an improved road. That makes no sense.
I mean, we can make it look nice. And
No, this isn't your problem. This is our
well, no,
problem.
but we'll. I mean,
I
as far as
appreciate that, but
we're
what I'm
gonna.
saying is you're going to stub it out, and there's no obligation for the homeowners to make that a entranceway and remove the emergency access in the future once you all are gone.
Well, we can design it so it's big enough to do that in the future. Typically, you don't like extra access. Typically, jurisdictions don't like the extra access points for residents. So we were kind of like debating that. I mean, we can design it wide enough that could happen in the future, but we know that we don't have the legal right to cross over more than 30 foot of that other property at this time.
Preferably, I'd rather be designed for future because I mean we got that problem on Rogers Road right now with the back of McIver Run and the neighborhood back there where the neighbors in McIver Run happen to live there all want to make that a gate and they can't because would have to upgrade everything.
I mean, we actually even talked about that. Like we were like,
Yeah,
well, they probably don't want it, so we were like, okay, fine.
Yeah,
We can
We were
make
thinking
it.
what you would say.
you can make
Yeah.
it where it's
We could design it as like a neighborhood only entrance, a resident only entrance, and not have the turnaround access points. Because once you open that off, I think you're asking for problems.
Well, we can leave the gate there, but if you want to make it where it could be a future entrance,
resident only.
just taking the gates up.
Yeah.
You
So
know,
for now,
and-
we'll sign it as emergency, but we can note it as a condition that when Poncan Pines is extended, it'll be converted to a neighbor resident only access.
I mean, Richard.
Yeah, and maybe you could also dedicate some easement because it's certain that whoever comes in the homeowner association isn't going to want to pay for whatever modifications in the future. So it seems like some sort of easement for future modification
Connection.
of that northern entrance is put in place so that we don't have to
Mhm.
try to deal with that later.
Okay.
Well, we appreciate your cooperation. Thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant? All right, we'll go around the DRC Community Development. Has no other questions or comments, police,
I don't have anything else. Thank you. And
public
again, thank you.
services,
Nothing, thank you.
fire,
no comments.
building.
Everything, thanks.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is Dunkin' Donuts minor or construction site plan first submittal. Amir Hamza, project manager.
Good morning, everyone. This is a proposed Dunkin' Donuts fast food restaurant on Rock Springs Road, just north of Welch Road. The site is 0.79 acres and zoned community commercial. Future land use is commercial, and applicant is here today for any questions or comments.
All right, if the applicant has any questions or comments for the DRC, now's your chance to address those.
And we knew it was Dunkin', so coming in after, so we didn't bring Krispy Kreme.
Oh, okay. Greg Crawford with Florida Engineering Group, 5127 South Orange Avenue, Orlando, Florida. Yeah, I went through and I did get the comments from the city. There were a couple of comments that I just wanted to get some clarifications on. One of them was with regards to the parking plan. We've got a sheet C6 that actually has all the parking with the different dimensions shown on it, or the parking spaces. So I wasn't sure if that you needed something more than that.
Well, yeah, I saw the page for it, but you have to mention. Yeah, the page it was in the CSP, but you have to specify that is a parking plan on the thing. It says parking, but you have to mention like parking data, but you have to mention that this is a parking plan because it says
Parking plan here, then I could be okay.
yeah, because it says overall site plan on there. It says if you're trying to, you have to dedicate like a page where it shows exactly this, like the parking information, but then you have to mention that it's parking plan.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've never done that before, so okay. Then One of them was dealing with regards to comment number 9 was with the sidewalks adjacent to, parking adjacent to sidewalks and building. As you can see up on the plan there, we actually don't have anything next to the building, so I'm not sure for the wheel stops we'll be able to provide that.
Not the building, it's
So we got 5 feet between the parking and the building or the sidewalk.
yeah, yeah.
We got a pond here, no parking next to the building, so I wasn't sure.
Was it comment number 9? Ignore it and sidewalk. It's for any building and sidewalk because you have sidewalk there. It's not for the
But
building. It's for the.
There's like 5-foot difference between the two.
Even if like it's just that's what it mentions in the code. Like even if it's 5 foot, you're still adjacent to a sidewalk. So you have to adhere to that comment because you have parking space. It's next to the sidewalk. So
All right. Well, typically, usually you do the wheel stop to keep the car overhang from actually overhanging the sidewalk to keep them from blocking through there. Trying to keep the walkway, but we can go and add those. That's typically not what we do.
Yeah, it just meant that's why it was mentioned. Like it didn't say there's no parking that's next to a building, but because it's next to a sidewalk, that's why I added that comment.
Okay.
Are you talking about the parking spaces on the north side of the?
Pardon?
You talking about the parking spaces on the north side of the parking lot?
Yeah, which is
Yeah,
adjacent to the
they need
sidewalk.
wheel stops.
Well, yeah, we'll go ahead and show it. I mean, obviously, we usually, just like I said, with the parking on it, with the sidewalk, usually try to keep the overhang. But we can go ahead and show those.
It's also a pedestrian safety, so somebody can't jump that curb with a pedestrian walking down the sidewalk.
Okay. I mean, we can go ahead and show it, just trying to get clarification on that. So those are the only 2 clarification items that I had. The rest of them seem fairly straightforward. I don't know if you had any comments or anything separate.
Any additional questions or comments for the applicant?
I have one. I think I read the plans right. I'm not an engineer, so I just want clarification. It appears to me that the eastern side of the building is the front of the building and it's going to have a facade for the front of the building, correct? Not the north side? Because
We'll probably be facing the roadway.
we're requiring Mavis to face the road. This business needs to face the road also, so we're consistent. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, so in the case of the Mavis Tire, they were trying to have the bays of where you could see them doing the work visible from Rock Springs Road. We told them that can't be visible. So the chief's question is the portion of the building facing Rock Springs Road, is it like going to be like Mavis, or how's that going to look?
It looked to me
Well,
like
with the
you have,
Dunkin' Donuts, it just has the front door that's going to be
Right.
there, and then it just does have the facade. We included with the plans a set of elevations that were there.
yeah, and I tried to look at them, but unfortunately I'm not an engineer. So it looks to me like you have done some work to make that look like the front of the building, but I just want to make sure that we are consistent and that, if somebody's driving by Rock Springs Road, they look at that as the front of the Dunkin' Donuts, not the northern side of the road.
Correct. Yeah. Since it's facing that way, that is correct. So they've got a Dunkin', like a sign that's above the front door. But it's a very narrow building, so there's not a lot of facade to it.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, that is where the front door does look like it's a presentation of the front of the building.
Yeah,
We don't have any bay doors or anything like that.
yeah, and you can see here on the plan, if you see these little dashed lines there, that's representative of
Do you have the
front door.
elevations, Bobby?
Not in the DRC pack, but we have them upstairs. We can show them to you.
Do you have them with you?
I have here, yeah.
He's got
Can you look at them? Do you understand what I'm saying? Yep. Let's let Richard look at them. He's the engineer here, not me. So,
So that's the front door. Correct.
That's
And
facing
this-
Rock Springs Road, right?
This is facing the north.
This is these are the windows. This is
Okay, that's facing
That's the
south.
south side, correct.
What is the?
where the drive-through is.
There's the north side, so basically we've got just some glass there. This is where the parking lot is, and then got some glass on that side, and there aren't any bay doors or anything on it on that side.
And there's no entrance over there.
There aren't any
Okay.
entrances there, that's correct. So it's a very small interior, they're not really expecting a lot of people inside, so the front door is really the only place, and you got the back door that's coming off of here that's really for the employees back and forth for operations.
Can I ask this? Is it feasible to put the word Apopka on the front of the building? Apopka Dunkin' on the front, east side versus the north side? Where you have Dunkin' here, change that to the Apopka Dunkin' and maybe Dunkin' on the side? You understand what I'm saying?
Oh, it's from here.
And there's no entrance over there. There's no entrance over there. That's correct. So that's the front door. Correct. And this is the north side. This is the south side. Correct. What is the? Where the drive-through is.
I'll check with the architect. I don't know what they've got approved. They got to get that approved by Duncan himself, and that, so I can at least ask.
You understand what I'm saying? It just makes it look like that's more of the front than,
Right.
I just want to make sure that we don't give other applicants an argument that we're requiring them to change their business site plan, but we're not making sure yours is facing Rock Springs Road is an interest. I see with your door, I see with the Duncan, I think we have a good argument that that is the front of it, but I appreciate it.
Okay, I'll ask a question.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Rich.
Sure. Yeah, it kind of reminds me with the glass kind of wrapping around that corner. It looks like what's that, Tijuana Flats or whatever down there, the new one down there. Is that what it is? Yeah. Then they kind of have that set up where the front door actually does face 441, but then it's glass, but, around
Right side, yeah.
I guess the east side of it as well.
There are a few small seating tables in there, and so that's where the glass would be associated. There, I don't know, maybe 10 seats max. It's a very small interior use on that.
Looks just like the other coffee establishment down on Fairlake Road. Basically says the same thing.
Now, there's gonna, of course, Dunkin', I can't imagine a higher traffic volume than maybe a gas station than Dunkin'. So I imagine your traffic study, I mean, as a professional engineer at the podium on the record, you're telling me that the traffic study that was originally done back when the master plan for the whole site was done, the trips for this sort of use were taken into account.
Well, they did it for a commercial type of use on that. So on, I forget exactly as far as what different type of uses were on there. I know that we did have a previous discussion. I know there was discussion with regards to when you come off the road, you got that first entrance that actually further closest to the east, that if it got to a little bit crowded, I think we talked with the fact that we may come out there, work with the manager as far as for police to go ahead and maybe put some cones there, force everybody towards the back to kind of get them to circulate around it during the busy times if needed on that. But that was the time. That's what we've discussed so far with regards to circulation on the project. And that was, I think we were pre-application when that comment came up from police, and that's what we discussed at that time.
Right, that was the internal circulation, but I am also concerned about the traffic coming out of a car wash at Dunkin' Donuts, a Mavis repair shop, and exiting one location on Rock Springs Road. And I don't know if you've traveled Rock Springs Road between 6:30 and 8. It backs up almost to that now. My other concern is what is it, Metro Plan is planning a multi-million-dollar redo of this entire area. And are we working with them to make sure that what we're doing in this is not going to interfere? Because I know they have a plan for a red light at the McDonald's. And how's that going to affect the traffic flow and everything else with everything? I mean, I have to say, this is one of the sites we've shoved more stuff on than anything else I've seen in the city.
Well, I know that as far as with regards to the actual Rock Springs improvements we did, that was part of the Lux Car Wash that we did and already been approved with the city on that. We had to go through and actually get the work that's being done within Rock Springs Road. That was actually a county roadway. So we actually have a separate permit for that. So they're aware of what all work's being done, what that may or may not impact any plans that they have along Rock Springs Road on that. But yeah, we have actually permitted those improvements out in the Rock Springs Road area with the county, and they're aware of the work that's being done out there.
Just to kind of jump in, I think it's reasonable for us to ask you to demonstrate that you have collaborated with Orange County and Metro Plan, and Metro Plan is multi-million-dollar in this region. And luckily, Amir is the city's Metro Plan go-to person right now. So I would imagine the two of y'all could hook up and make sure that they don't have any heartburn or this somehow restricts the plan that they're working on or changes the plan that they've already made a lot of progress on, I hope. I think that's reasonable. And, demonstration, you've touched base with them, could be a phone call, or it probably makes sense to sit down and just, show your site on an exhibit, and whoever's working on the what is it, Welch and Rock Springs, everybody just talks and makes sure that.
I'll get with him to try to coordinate that.
Yeah, because there was some talk about a pedestrian cross with flashing lights at one point. I'm opposed to that. I think they could walk down to the red light. But I've told them I'm opposed to the pedestrian. But if they're still moving along with the pedestrian, how's that affected by all this traffic? A pedestrian crossing north of the red light at McDonald's. I'm hoping they don't go through with that initially. I hope that's something that they can, I think once they put the red light, obviously people aren't going to walk from that trailer park all the way to Welch Road to use a crosswalk. I think they will walk to McDonald's and use the crosswalk to go there. I don't think we need a pedestrian crosswalk further north, which would be just north, I believe was just north of your development, with flashing lights to allow people to cross the street there. I'm trying to get them to, work and get them down to the red light so we don't have to have that other crossing and additional slowdowns and stopping, because it's already backing up. The turn lane going east on Welch is inadequate at this point in time, and it's only going to get worse. So,
I'll get with him.
and I'm not opposed to your project because my son will be your biggest customer, but
Well, appreciate that. I'll go and get with Amir, and we can try to discuss that with the county and make sure we're all on the same page.
okay, thank you.
Just one thing I noticed on the plan, it says West Colonial Drive. You might just want to change that.
I'm not sure. I'll have to talk with the landscape architect. There are a few things stalled there that shouldn't be.
Yeah, all right. Fire department. Yeah, right.
And no comments.
Building. All right. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Just coordinate with Amir on that since he's your project manager. Any items for discussion?
I want to bring up one thing real quick. Jeremy and I have had a couple discussions. We are not engineers. We have no idea what site elevations look like or anything else. Obviously, we have the problem with the elevation at Poncan Pines, Wolf Ranch, whatever that subdivision is there. We also have a problem with stairs that are in Emerson Park that might be on Emerson Park's property. I know that we required access to the sidewalk so the fire department could get there. But in my recollection of the plans, it was just a straight line. And to me, it looked like flat sidewalk that they could get the ambulance out and move. It's a set of stairs that are burnt near 90 degrees up. There were no lines to indicate it was going to be stairs or anything else. So we really need help from the engineers and community development to tell us there's an elevation involved here when we want to try to bring an ambulance or a gurney, whatever they call that thing, up a stretcher to a house. It's almost not feasible, but in review at the time, nothing was ever brought up, and it looked like it was just going to be a straight walk off the road to the sidewalk to get to the front of those houses, so they had access to the houses because you can't access the garage when a car was there. I remember all those discussions. So, I'm a little concerned that, I don't know what elevations look like. We're going to need some help in the future to make sure that we can avoid these elevation issues and not accomplish what our intended goal is here.
The other major traffic issue is the townhouse off it's off Kelly Park. I can't think it's the horse farm. I can't think of the name of the farm or the neighborhood now, but they got the same problem, chief. Staircases are right up on the door, and I don't see them on plans. It's just not the way I read plans. I guess I need to get better at it, but obviously it's something helpful.
In regards to how to determine if a site has elevation differential, the gentleman sitting right next between both of you would be the person to talk to on that. There's usually spot grades and they should show elevations on the plans, but Richard could kind of help you out with that because that's really an engineering issue.
And real quick, the problem with that Emerson Park townhome debacle, and it's going to be a debacle before it's all said and done. The homeowners association from Emerson Park have come to me and said if those stairs are allowed, which they were allowed, they were approved on the construction site plan. He said if when the time comes when that part of that their subdivision, Emerson Park Townhomes, is completed, Emerson Park Homeowners Association is going to put a fence to where they cannot come off those stairs and get onto Emerson Park's private, and it is private, sidewalk. That's going to cause an issue, a huge issue.
So I pulled the plat of Emerson Park and the residences of Emerson Park. So Emerson Park's plat was approved back in 2006. Syntex Homes was the original builder. Where residences of Emerson Park is tract G on that plat. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick. And it was tract G, noted as future development. And so future development was sold to several people over the years. And then it was eventually sold to the developer of Residences Emerson Park. Austin Bay Boulevard is noted in the plat as a private right-of-way that was dedicated to the HOA of Emerson Park. The only way that Track G could be accessed is via the right-of-way of Austin Bay Boulevard. There's no other access. The skilled nursing facility that's next door has access off of Austin Bay Boulevard. And you can see here that, and I can't rotate this image, but this is where Residences at Emerson Park is right now. There's no access behind them because that's the 429 right-of-way, platted as such. Track G, future development, that's the skilled nursing facility. This is where it's at. So on the plat, that's the only way they could access that. And then pulling the plat for Residences at Emerson Park, let's see if that's on here too. It's a replat of Track G of Emerson Park.
Is the emergency road on that what connects to Apopka? I'm confused on that. What is that?
Your emergency access is off of Alston Bay. The what's it called, Richard? Substantial. It's a grass.
Right,
emergency
it's stabilized access there.
Stabilized
Right, yeah.
grass access. And that goes up a pretty good grade as well. I don't see a fire truck being able to get up that, nor an ambulance.
And that's what my concern. I said it earlier. I mean, the days of allowing non-paid emergency access are over for me. I'm not going to allow it. Period. I don't know if I have ground to stand on that, but it's just something that does it.
I think they're useless.
In our policies.
She keeps flashing up there for you.
In our policy,
They're trying to tell
our
us something.
policies state that we're not to take fire trucks off road. And why would I advise my guy have a road made for my guys to use? That's not proper. So it's something that we can't continue that. It
And
sounds
another-
like the meeting is
Because
happening.
Chief, remember we were out there that time we were talking about that access, and it doesn't even line up. What's that other street out there, Chief? Do you remember?
Mhm.
But it's kind of catty corner to it wouldn't even line up. They would only be able to access it one way like they're going out of Emerson Park.
Yeah.
So it's
As far
yeah.
as the stair issue, I mean, the plans were vetted through DRC. I don't know what the reasoning for the stairs was. I don't think I was here with the city at that point in time. But everything in the public record shows that they have access. The only way they can access that property is off Austin Bay Boulevard. It was platted as such almost.
Well, I
30
remember
years
the
ago.
plans, but to me, again, it's an elevation issue. It looked like I thought it was just going to be a flat sidewalk to a flat sidewalk to a flat sidewalk to the entrance to the door, in my recollection. But back to these emergency entrances, I don't know what we need to do to support Jeremy and make this change, because we've had numerous discussions lately about nobody knows where these emergency entrances are when they're grass. I guarantee you that once we're all gone and retired, they're not going to know where they are. If we don't do something better to make them asphalt recognition with signs of emergency entrance only and stuff like that, so that people are aware of where they are. I mean, I don't think there's anybody up here that knew the emergency entrance off Chandler Road was to one of those subdivisions until Chandler Road became an issue. And then everybody's like, oh, wait, there's an emergency entrance over there? I had no idea. So we got to do better to make sure these things are marked and identifiable so that first responders know where they're at.
Otherwise, it's pointless.
Well, I think that's where you guys come in, police and fire. I mean, come up with some policy.
Well, we can
Right,
create
so
Code.
policy,
It
but
doesn't fall
does the
strictly
land
on
development
community
code support
development.
us?
Yeah, it doesn't strictly fall on community development. This is the development review committee. So, I mean, this is where it's your time to kind of shine, so to
Right,
speak.
but my question is, we can make the policy here,
Mhm.
but is the policy supported by the land development code?
I'll go back and double check, but if
That
we
does
can
become-
draft
think
the
it-
policy
I
and
think
then
it
do
can
an
be.
amendment in the
Yeah.
land development code to make it part of the land development code. But I think if it's a public safety thing, I mean, you could start making those recommendations. All right, so we've covered Emerson Park, access, Any other items for discussion?
No, we need to stop before John rolls his eyes at me.
But I'm glad you brought that up. I really am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank
we're
you.
Adjourned.